Russian troops are allegedly holding hospital patients and staff hostage at a Ukrainian hospital in Mariupol. Now, Biden has signed a congressional budget legislation that essentially provides more aid and more help to Ukraine. We'll get to the details of that in just a moment. But here's what we're hearing. These are preliminary reports. A lot of this stuff, I think, is likely to get cleared up in coming days. But so far, the deputy mayor of Mariupol told the BBC about 400 people at the regional intensive care hospital had been taken as hostages. For nearly 2 weeks, the city has been surrounded by Russian troops with gas, running water, and electricity completely cut off. Now, the governor of the Donetsk region also said that a hospital worker had managed to alert the authorities about the situation. The hospital, he said, was the same that was damaged by a Russian strike last week. Now, this is reported by the BBC. The initial reporting that I saw on this was actually on Twitter by a reporter who was formerly with Deutsche Welle. She also does some work over at the BBC. Her Twitter thread, Anastasia Magazova, said the following. Residents of Mariupol have contacted the Media Human Rights Initiative hotline saying that since yesterday morning, March 14th, the Mariupol Regional Intensive Care Hospital has been occupied by the Russian troops. The staff and patients of the hospital are being held as hostages. One of the witnesses claims that Russian soldiers are forcing the other civilians there as well. And there is some concern that they're using these hostages as a human shield. Essentially, what the allegation is that Russian troops are shooting at Ukrainian troops from the windows of this hospital, hoping that they'll return fire. And so again, that part of the story, it has not been confirmed, certainly not confirmed to the point where I feel comfortable buying it 100%. Like I said, this is a developing story. We'll learn more details about it as it develops, but that is what's being reported for now. I'm sure things are likely to be updated and change.
Okay, so first of all, until we have evidence, independent evidence, I wouldn't believe a word that the Russian government says. In fact, I would believe the opposite until proven otherwise. Because in this case, already the Russian foreign minister said, "Oh, they're shooting from inside the maternity ward." I'm sorry, in a different hospital, and that's why we had to go in. And he said the nurses and the patients had already been taken out. And then later they came out and said, "Just kidding, we didn't bomb it at all." So everything's a lie. So they take 400 hostages in a hospital and say, "Oh yeah, they were shooting from inside the building." Yeah, I don't believe you. You've never shown any evidence to back up anything you say. In fact, as I just told you, you put out contradictory statements without a care in the world. So you'd be a naive fool to believe anything the Russian government is saying at this point. In fact, they imprison people for 15 years if you tell the facts in Russia. So the government lies systematically. And by the way, saying that people are shooting from hospitals and that's why you had to kill them or take them hostage is the oldest trick in the imperialist handbook, right? So it's the same thing Israel does in every conflict. We had to bomb the schools and the hospitals, but it wasn't our fault for bombing the hospitals and the schools. It was the Palestinians' fault. They shot from there, kind of. They threw stones from there. They looked at us kind of mean from there. So that's why we did it. I don't believe the Israeli government, which is a right-wing government that has been tyrannical in its occupation of the Palestinians. And I don't believe the Russian government that did this war of aggression and has murdered these civilians.
So the other updates include the funding that's been allocated, additional humanitarian funding, and I'm sure military aid that's being provided to Ukraine. So Congress has passed another budget deal, and in it includes a $13.6 billion appropriation for humanitarian and security assistance for Ukraine. Vladimir Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, is also going to address Congress. That is going to take place Wednesday this week. And in that address, he is likely to of course, ask again for a no-fly zone, which I'm happy the United States government has been resistant toward, and he's going to ask for further assistance, both militarily and with humanitarian aid. So we'll see how that all plays out. But the situation is not looking good. The bombings in Kiev have been absolutely devastating. We now have more than 2 million individuals who have fled Ukraine as a result of this war and this crisis, and it's just absolutely heartbreaking. Every time they meet for a peace talk, it devolves, and Putin seems to intensify his attacks in Ukraine with each passing day. Look, even if Putin retreats and he stops, which I'm hoping he does soon, the country has been devastated. Major cities have been, just completely flattened. Buildings are completely destroyed, hospitals, schools. It's just, at this point, there are no winners, and if Ukraine is able to maintain its sovereignty, it's just gonna take a lot to rebuild the country.
Yeah, so Colin Powell had this famous line in regards to Iraq: if you break it, you own it. So now, it's ironic coming from Colin Powell, who helped to bring us to that Iraq war, but later regretted it. And in this case, Russia broke Ukraine, and so they own all of the responsibility. Every person killed in Ukraine is Vladimir Putin's fault, a mass murderer. So if you see anybody making excuses for that mass murderer, talking about, oh my God, Ukraine shouldn't have been in NATO. We said that before the war, and so did Zelensky. And so Putin had gotten everything that he wanted, and he invaded anyway. There is no question he is the aggressor. And all those deaths are on his head forever and ever. A tyrant that'll go down in the history books. Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.